Okay, so last week we talked about reflections, and the week before that we did translations. So we're still in the transformation unit, which just means it's the unit where we're talking about where shapes can turn and move and slide. But rotations, that's where we're turning. So a rotation turns a figure around a fixed point called the center of rotation. For our examples, the center of rotation will be the origin and will rotate in increments of 90 degrees. So when we talk about rotation, think of like a pinwheel. Have you ever seen one of those where you blow on it and it spins and there's that little pin in the middle? That little pin in the middle would be your point of your fixed point, which is the origin. So pay attention to the direction of the rotation. Is it going clockwise, which is this way? Is it going counterclockwise, which is backwards? Consider each quadrant as another 90 degrees in the rotation. So what that means is if we started in this quadrant and we move to this one, if we're going counterclockwise, right? This would be 90 degrees, 180, 270, 360. So if any of you guys have heard of different turning things or skateboards and you know like, oh, cool, like 360 when you go all the way around. I think you could do that on bikes too. But think about that. So it starts here. And if we were here, it only rotated 90 degrees counterclockwise. However, if we're talking clockwise and it started here and it ended up here, we would go 90, 180, 270. And then you might be wondering what these little pluses are, and they kind of look like little faces. But this is just to show you that the X value is positive in this quadrant and the Y value is positive in this quadrant. Like X and Y, they're both positive. When you get over here, the X values are negative, but the Y values are still positive. That's why it's negative, positive. And then here, X values are negative, Y values are negative, so both of them are negative signs. And then here, X values are positive, Y values are negative, so that's why we have positive, negative. Okay, so it's saying that any number, any point that we would put on this graph in this quadrant would be positive, both of them. That's what it's saying for these. Okay. So you're going to find the number of degrees in each rotation shown. So before I go down to the answers, this one's the original. We know that because it does not have the prime sign. This is the new image because it does have the prime sign. So we're going from here to here. Now, if we're going clockwise, that's only one turn. So clockwise, it would be 90 degrees. Now, if we're going counterclockwise, so we're going backwards, it's 90, 180, 270. So let's check. See, 90 degrees clockwise, 270 counterclockwise. And then here. So this one's down here. Remember, this is the first one because it does not have a prime mark. And it's going, if we were going counterclockwise, we're going backwards 1, right? We're going the opposite way. So this would be only 90 degrees counterclockwise. But clockwise, we're going 90, 180, 270. So 270 degrees clockwise, 90 degrees counterclockwise. Here, this is where we're beginning. Remember, no prime mark. So this is the original. So we're going clockwise, it's 90, 180. And then the funny part about this one is if you go 90, 180 the other way, they're both 180. So 180 degrees. Okay, for these ones, this is the original. This is where the new one is. If we're going counterclockwise, so backwards, we only moved once. So that's 90 degrees. But if we're going clockwise, we're going 90, 180, 270. So it's 270 degrees clockwise, 90 degrees counterclockwise. For here, we have the original. We're going 90, 180 clockwise, 90, 180 counterclockwise. Okay? Here, we have the original. Clockwise is only going one turn, so it's 90 degrees. If we're going the other way, we have 90, 180, 270. Okay, so then if we go down here, this was asking us to actually rotate. So you wanted us to rotate it to the right 90, then 180, and then 270. So the reason there's like all these little prime marks is because this shows us that this is the first prime mark because there's only one. So this is the first new image. Then here's the second one, and here's the third. Okay, that's why there's so many different prime marks. So we're going from here to here. So what you can remember or try to remember is when we go from quadrant to quadrant, all these X values do is they switch. So the X value is 2, the Y value is 1 for A. So when we go here, it's going to be 1, 2. And then when we go here, it's going to be 2, 1 again. And then 1, 2. So it goes 2, 1, 1, 2, 2, 1, 1, 2. We're going 90 degrees. The x value is going to flip with the y. So here it was 2, 1. So down here it's going to be 1, 2. So that's where we get our A prime. For B, it was 6, 1. So now it's going to be 1, 6. So that's where we get B. C, we're going 4, 7, and it's going to be 7, 4. They flipped. So 7, 4. And we know what's in this quadrant because it's saying 90 degrees, which means we're turning 1 time clockwise. If you need to know for this part where you're writing down the coordinates, you can look at this original graph up here that tells us whatever area that it ends up in, the first one's going to be positive or negative. Like it tells you for the numbers what the coordinates would be. But also if you just look at the graph and where it ended up, like because once you did this one, it's going to turn again. So these x and y coordinates are going to switch. And then you just write 1, negative 2. So here you'd write 1, negative 2. B is 1, negative 6. C is 7, negative 4. And you would just do that for each of them. I tried to color coordinate them so that you can see the differences between these. And this is just telling you that like this was x, y, and now it's switching y, negative x, okay? And when that tells you that, you had to find the pattern. So the original triangle, this one up here, coordinates were 2, 1, 6, 1, 4, 7. Now because we only turned once, the coordinates switched. So we have 1 in this spot and 2 in this spot. However, this one's negative, okay? So that's where we get y switched to the x space and x switched to the y space and became negative. So that's where I got that from, okay? And the same thing for each of these. They just end up flipping and you have to follow which coordinate they're in so you know if they're negative or positive. And again, that's where you can go back up to here for reference, okay? And then down here, this is what you guys are going to be working on. So you're going to use the information that I just went over and this graph up here to help you. And see, so the coordinates below represent rotations. Use what you've learned today to describe what type of rotation occurred. So if it's going from 9, 8 to 8, negative 9, look here, which one did that? Which one had the x and y switch and this value became negative? So what type of turn? You can write the clockwise or counterclockwise term on the line, that's fine. And you're going to do that for each of those, okay? Make sure you include the degrees, because if you just say counterclockwise, that does not help because we don't know how many degrees or how many turns it had to take, okay? And here for number 11, so that's what you're doing for 8 through 10. Number 11, you're doing do rotations keep, which is preserve, or change the orientation of the figure. So is the rotation changing or keeping the orientation of the figure, okay? Which is like the direction, right? Number 12, do rotations keep or change the orientation of the vertices? So when it says A, B, C, right, we go, this one's going A, C, B, A, C, B, A, C, B, A, C, B. So you tell me, did that keep it or preserve it? I mean, preserve it or change the orientation. So that's all your homework for today and tomorrow. I want you to watch this video, watch it a couple times if it helps you, and then try these questions and email me if you have any questions. Please remember that we won't have office hours tomorrow, Tuesday. We will have them today at 11:30. Okay, so hopefully I'll see you today, but hopefully you have time to take a look at this just to become familiar, and then I can answer any questions you have after.